Hi, first graders. Mr. Askelson here. It is Wednesday, May 6th, 2020, and today we're going to do a continuation on time and looking at clocks. Yesterday we used a clock called an analog clock, and that has hands on a circular face that shows us the time, a lot like we have around the building at Nevlin. But there's also another type of clock called a digital clock. And a digital clock does not have hands. And in a lot of ways, it's probably a little easier to tell time on a digital clock. If your parents have a cell phone, a lot of times it'll show the time on the face of the cell phone. That's a digital clock. Or if you have an alarm clock, or maybe a clock on a stove or a microwave. A lot of those clocks are digital. So what really is the difference between a digital and an analog? It says an analog clock uses an hour hand and a minute hand to show time. A digital clock uses numbers to show the hours and the minutes. So analog, yes, there's numbers on the clock, but the hands are what tell you what time it is. On the digital clock, you just have numbers and you can read it. The first number to the left is the hours. The numbers to the right are the minutes. So let's take a look at a few of these clocks again. All right, yesterday we looked at this clock, and this is an analog clock. It's got hands, and the hands move to show hours. The long hand points to the minutes, and remember, each one of these little marks along here is a minute, and there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. The short hand then points to the hour. So if I was looking at this clock right here, I would say that it is 10 o'clock. My digital clock is over here, and you can see it just says the numbers, 10 o'clock. There's not a lot of mystery involved. You don't have to really count anything. You can just look at the numbers and read them off. So if I was to take the hand and go all the way around back to 12, there would be 60 minutes, and then it moved my hour hand from 10 to 11. It is 11 o'clock. Now, here's this little thing up here. It says AM. Watch what happens when I move this clock all the way around again. And you can see that it's 12 o'clock, but it says PM up here. Go back this way, and it was AM. Go this way, and it's PM. And for right now, I don't know how much we have to worry about. All that tells you is there's 12 hours from midnight until noon. So those would be the late night hours and then the morning hours. And once it gets to 12 noon, then we consider this to be afternoon and this evening. So AM we kind of think of as morning, PM we think of as afternoon, evening. But for right now, we're just going to look at the numbers. We're just going to look at the whole hours. So I'm going to move, let's see, I'll move it here. I'll put my big hand back up there. And the small hand is pointing to 6. The big hand is pointing up to 12. I look at my digital clock. What time is it? 6 o'clock. So let's take another look at just some digital clocks and see if we can figure out what time it says to put on the digital clock. Here's my analog clock. My long hand is pointing towards the 12. My short hand is pointing towards the 7. So if I was to write that in, let's see if I can get this. I would write this as, let's see. It's not going to let me write this one in, sorry. It's pointing to 7 o'clock. Over on the other side, my big hand, long hand is on the 12. Small hand's pointing to 11. So I would put this down as 11 here, 0, 0. Over here on this side, a 7 here, 0, 0. Let's check our answer. Yep, we were correct. 7 o'clock and 11 o'clock. Let's check another one here. What time is shown? Write the time on the digital clock. My big hand up at 12. Small hand over at 3. So I would say that this is 3 o'clock, 2 zeros over here. Big hand is on the 12, small hand is on the 10. So I would write 10 o'clock. Let's check. And we are right, 3 o'clock and 10 o'clock. So you've got some work today on using some analog clock, which is good because it gives you the practice of reading those hands to find the time, but then also looking at the digital clock and writing the numbers in, and being able to read both clocks is really, really important. We get used to using the digital clock because it seems to be everywhere, but when we get to that place where there isn't one, there's only an analog clock, we need to be able to tell time with both. So hope this helps today, first graders. Have a great day.